And we're here. Hi,
And we're
everyone.
live.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. It is Monday night, Generational Change. If you weren't here Thursday, Happy New Year. I am Jen.
I'm Peter. And boy, oh boy, did I have an evening.
What happened to you? You're not usually tardy in this manner.
Well,
You've been timely since you've moved.
No, technically I'm not late because the countdown is always the saving grace.
No. You weren't late, but I know you were hurried. So
yes, I was hurried. So the reason why I'm all dapper this evening is because I actually just got back from the very first Phil, thank you so much. What a way to get things off to a great start.
It's really nice.
It is. It is. Our channel is definitely growing, and we're very appreciative.
Plus, he has the Dalai Lama, which is just cool in and of itself. Okay, so tell me what happened.
So I went to my very first Republican political event this evening, the Republican Women's Club of Niceville.
This was where you got to meet the guy running for Gates' seat, right?
Well, I got to meet a lot of the guys running for Gates' seat.
Interesting.
Dean Valentino.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God. Palm cards galore.
Jeff Peacock, who is actually a teacher at Niceville High School. Got to give it up for the teachers.
Looks like a teacher.
The millennial in the race, Michael Dylan Tyson. This guy's a slick guy.
Oh, my God. He doesn't even look like real.
He's slick.
Oh, from far away, it's like John Hammey. He's giving John Hammey vibes.
Aaron Demock, good dude. Served in the Navy. He also is the person who challenged Gates in the primary earlier last year, excuse me. We are in 25.
So who's the person that you had said to me was like the favored? Who do you think is the favored?
Finally, you have Dr. Joel Rudman. We're going to get into this guy.
I love how he has his stethoscope. What kind of physician is he for just shits and giggles?
General practitioner.
Okay, so he actually does use a stethoscope. My favorite is when it's somebody who is a doctor that they do not on a regular use their stethoscope.
You mean like that scene, like the scene right out of Airplane? Excuse me, sir, you a doctor? Yes, I am.
Right, like Jason does not walk around with a stethoscope around his neck.
It's not the only one in the race. The one who is definitely in the front is Jimmy Petronis.
That's what I was asking you, but was he there?
Yeah, of course, he was there. We talked for a minute.
Okay.
He remembers LaSidwin Luck, who I've known through various networking groups in Broward. I made some good connections. It was a very nice. Listen, here's what I will say about a traditional Republican club that's actually active compared to, let's say, like an active Democratic club. The age is.
What was the age range?
It's definitely boomer dominant. There's no question about that.
But a lot of that's geography.
That's true too. It's a very military, retirement-oriented area.
Thank you, Chip.
And what I will say is the big difference between a Republican club and a Democratic club, the old biddies in the Republican club, they got a lot of fire in the belly. They are not geriatric, if you will. They're not just hanging on. They are very active. They are very Christian in this area.
Yeah.
But without question, they're very passionate about their politics. And I will say that the questions that were asked of the people sitting on the panel were very substantive, very direct. A number of things I agreed with, a number of things I didn't agree with. The biggest issue that came up
this is interesting because wait a second, before you get into each of the candidates, did they even have a Democratic Party in that district?
They do, but it's not anything you would write home about.
Right, but this seat is a plus what?
Plus 20G.
Okay, so this seat's ridiculous. All right, go on. Sorry.
So what I would say were sort of the standouts. And then there was one other guy. But if there was a guy who took the cake in this group, because there were a few. There was one gentleman, I think his name was Gibney, I think is his last name. There were 10 candidates total.
Wow. Are they all qualified? These are all qualified?
Yeah, they're all qualified. They're all qualified. The thing about Gibney is that there was one guy, and that's him. He was... he's older, he's about 70, devout Christian, devout. And when the issue of abortion came up, he not only believes that all abortion should be illegal, he happens to be a person who was almost aborted himself when he was born. It was actually recommended.
Oh God, there's always one of those sob stories.
It is.
And whenever I hear them, I end up finding myself thinking, and I wish you had been.
Well, don't say that. What I would say is, I respect your beliefs. You can absolutely be pro-life. It is not your business to tell other people how to live their lives. And frankly, it is a government overreach when you get right down to it.
What did the rest of them say? Like, I would have, first of all, this is a Republican club. They're all going to be varying degrees of anti-choice.
Well, here's what I will tell you. There was one guy, his name was Macy, last name is Macy. He's not going to go anywhere, but I do appreciate him. He clearly is somebody, he's a veteran. He clearly is, he's got PTSD. It's obvious that he's got it. And then eventually he admitted that he did. So I picked up on that very quickly. But this is a guy who, he was the one guy in the whole group that stood up and said, I'm pro-life, but it's nobody's business to tell anybody else how to live their life. And it was like stone silence in the room. There was no booing. They're very respectful. I will say this. They are very respectful.
Oh, way more so than at a Dem club.
They definitely were surprised. But I will tell you, the one who took the cake was this guy, Merck. I think it was Greg Merck. You guys may want to look this up because I'm forgetting his first name. First of all, this guy comes in with a bomber jacket on with all of his credentials because he clearly served in the Air Force. And he wanted everyone to know that he has a dozen patches all over his jacket. So he's big time.
In the law world, that's sort of like your ego wall when you have all your diplomas and stuff.
Esquire, let me know that you approve.
Okay, so he was wearing his credentials. That's so tacky, by the way.
Jen, this guy was not only was he a slime bucket of a wannabe politician, but he was terrible at it.
Well, I don't see how that's real. First of all, I have yet to meet a veteran that has shown up, and we've done a lot of events at a lot of things, and there have been a lot of veteran candidates. Nobody does that. Nobody shows up like that.
100%. Like, it was so out of left field.
Showed up to an event like that.
He tried so hard to come off. All right, so here's the question that threw him. Because like I said, the Bo and Libby, who run the Republican club, the women's club, he actually asked a very pointed question to Merck. He asked him, because Merck happens to be a multimillionaire, would you put your assets in a private trust if you were to win the congressional seat? He proceeds to be like, well, no, actually, I want to get to this other person's question that was just estimated. I'm like, is he crazy? This is actually an ethics question about whether or not you are suitable to serve at the federal legislative level. And this is the one question you want to dodge?
Wait. Donald James and other people that have come on, Peter is referring to, he came this evening. He lives in the Panhandle now. He was at the Women's Republican Club meeting and got to meet a bunch of the Republican candidates that are running to fill Matt Gaetz's seat. So the people that he's talking about are Republican candidates in the primary for Matt Gaetz's congressional seat.
Correct.
That's it. Well, because there's been like a lot of people have come in and someone said, where was Pete at? So I'm just,
Thank you, Teresa. And thank you, guys. If you all haven't shared and liked, please do. Jen and I are running solo tonight, but you know what? It's actually a night where just Jen and I is actually pretty good because we've got a lot to cover. Just Jen. And of course, this was something that I thought was important. The problem, Ray J, is that Gaetz in many ways is like a tragic figure because he's such a slime ball, and yet he really was a representative that didn't take the corporate filth, and he actually voted consistently well on a number of key issues. But that's the problem. We live in a country where even the people that are trying to do right are always going to let you down. Like, there's so few that actually did. And listen, I got their small speeches. I took a number of video clips. We're going to turn that into something because I got them all talking. Some of them stood out above the rest.
It's like, guys, we really are getting like firsthand information about Gates's replacement just because of the fact that you live there. It's kind of funny.
It is most likely going to be Jimmy Patronis. The Donald endorsed him, so naturally he's going to be in favor.
Okay.
But
what do you think of him?
Patronis is a decent. I've always liked him. I always thought is he slick? A little bit, but he's not. I don't see him as dirty. Like, that's not the vibe that I get from him. I don't.
Well, because the thing about Gates was, it is disappointing that he is such a, I hate to say scummy, but yet everyone basically has had the same sentiment about him. So I have not met him. I generally don't like to be judgy like that, but it is unfortunate that he had that reputation or has that reputation, because he was taking stands on things and speaking up to his own party in a way made me feel like that's what we need to see. And so it is somewhat like regrettable that he's so douchey.
And that's why I want to point out Aaron Dimmock. And the reason why I want to point him out is because he challenged Gates in a primary. And I will tell you that even in...
Oh, you mean last time he ran? This guy
challenged correct. Gates? Just this previous election cycle.
How'd he do?
He did okay. He got 27%. But keep in mind, Gates is a very popular representative.
No, I was going to say, that's actually, the fact that he got double digits is actually really good.
And the other thing that I will mention is that, were there a few of the don't run against our own people? Yes.
They must hate him then.
There is no comparison. There is no comparison.
So why does he not have a better chance than Patronis? Like, that's what I understand. If he,
well, you know what? I look at it as who really stood out. Now, the point I was making is that in the Democratic Party, you do not challenge, no matter. Remember,
oh God, no.
Even somebody as disgusting and criminal as Debbie Wasserman Schultz, you do not primary sitting incumbents in the Democratic Party. Hence why Nancy Pelosi's walking around Congress with a walker right now. You know,
for the love of all that is holy. I honestly just put up a friggin' hospice sign on the top of the dome and be done with it.
I am convinced at this point, because I think we've both agreed that the main reason that she's still in Congress right now is because her nephew is going to run for president.
Gavin Newsom thing.
And so she wants to make sure that she's sinking her hooks into as many people as she can to make sure that he remains the front runner. Okay, fine. But it is not going to surprise me if she passes away in the next 4 years.
No, that won't surprise me. But at the end of the day, as long as she is bringing in money, she can do whatever she wants. That's the thing. As long as she's the key rainmaker, which she is, then she does whatever she wants. Which
she represents one of the wealthiest districts in the whole country. She represents Pacific Heights, San Francisco. So if you guys know anything about that area, it's not surprising. So,
I mean, yeah, I don't see her. I don't see it, and of course we know that she wants to bequeath her seat. She's one of those that actually believes that they should determine their successor. Like it's a friggin' monarchy. So she actually would like to bequeath her seat to her daughter. And as someone who finds that just repulsive, even if her daughter is qualified and is a great human being, which somehow I just can't wrap my head around, the whole concept of that is so grotesque to me.
The idea that
we have that here, by the way, people need to know that we have that here. Our local Congress people absolutely 100% feel entitled to determine their successor if and when they step down, or even if they're not even able to make their own votes because they're
Now, I will tell you that one of the questions that was asked, like I said, the biggest issue I had in this room is that there is a heavy dose of social conservatism that is of the extreme degree.
Yeah.
Like, you're talking about like a handful of church ladies that went up there, and the first question off the bat, listen, I understand.
Abortion.
Listen, I understand that they're pro-life. I'm not going to hold that against them. But Jen, they are anti-marijuana. Like they are. This is an evil drug. And
remember when I told you I bumped into what's his name? I'm not going to say his name. The guy who's the part of the Republican club down here, and I bumped into him at the polls, and I was with Graham, and Graham's going in to vote, and of course Graham knows who I am and knows what I'm about. And this guy goes on to a whole rant about the amendment and how the last thing we need is more people, more dope heads and it's a gateway drug. And he went into this whole thing with my 18-year-old who has grown up in a house with me, who just looked at me and was just like, oh, okay. But yeah, that is their line.
And Gates is also free, cannabis. And like I said, now granted, that's
also generational. I hate to say
it is. And they were definitely playing to the crowd. There's no two ways about it. And remember, I'm not in a Republican event in Pensacola. I'm in a Republican event in Niceville, Florida.
Right.
That is a completely different type of environment. We are right next to Eglin Air Force Base. This is a heavily military retirement area, and these people go to church all the time.
Did you let anyone know that you happen to be a registered Democrat and that you've been affiliated with Democrats?
I made some very nice connections in the room. In fact, I made a big connection with one of Dimmock's guys, one of Patronus's guys. This guy Craig, who works for Patronus.
Did you ask anyone if they want to come on the show?
Absolutely. Okay. And I'm going to message them. I'll ask them to come on.
I'd love to have those candidates on. That would
be
great.
If I ask Craig, if I'd say, listen, I'd like to have Jimmy on the podcast, he might do it. The one thing that Dimmock said is that, listen, I'd love to do it, but, it had more to do with the scheduling circumstance. I said, listen, if we can set it up where it's accommodating, of course, that's the goal. Because
and to be clear, if this seat were somehow a viable seat for anyone else but a Republican to win, then we would be, and we platformed Rebecca Jones, who I of course now have come to find out is a little on the shifty side. But so we would be, we're not just specifically going out of our way to platform Republicans, but it's for a Republican seat. And
but one of the men in that room is going to be my congressional representative. And you know what? Extremely more welcoming than anything you will ever see. But again, Wasserman Schultz is of a particularly horrific level of depravity that I don't think is prevalent across the board. But with that said, it is considered sacrilege to primary a sitting Democrat. It is not allowed. Yeah. And that's part of the reason why the party sucks.
They hold a grudge.
They do.
It's very clear they hold a grudge.
I even said to Dimmock's guy who was in commercial real estate, we had a great conversation. There was that real connection there. And I said, because he works for the Republican Party. And I said, no one is entitled to any federal seat. This is insanity that they think that. And he said, it is the people's house.
Yeah, I know. I've said that many times when people have given me the stink eye and say, well, that's Debbie's seat. And I would say, well, no, I know her ass has been in it long enough. You think it's her seat, but it actually belongs to the people of the district. But that's okay.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you,
and
Philip.
Yes, being anti-weed is one of the stupidest positions you can. I even said that to Dimmock's guy. And I understand that Dimmock didn't raise his hand, but I even said, Dimmock's guy agreed with me. And I just said, if you're anti-cannabis at this point, you're just a schmuck. Okay.
Well, I would suggest that at this point, the people that are anti-cannabis are just supporting their team, whether it's their religious team
100%.
Or their political team, because it really isn't logical. So it really only is for people who are just so positioned on their team. And that really is not a majority of people, fortunately, for us.
No, I mean, look, the room was predominantly boomer-aged Southern, Methodist. I mean, Southern Baptist.
That's an age and area thing. But like, when you go to, and the truth is, it is also the case at the young Republicans down here in Broward when we went, there's definitely a very large, anti-choice contingency.
Of course.
But that tends to be people that go to the clubs. When it comes to actual voters,
correct,
a very large amount of people that vote Republican are more libertarian. So I do think that you have a different crowd that goes to the clubs than is representative of the majority of Republican voters.
I couldn't agree more. I think that 100% is emblematic of exactly what the group is all about. I think that they are compared to the Democratic clubs, these are much nicer, welcoming people.
Oh my God.
1,000%.
Well, okay. And also we have to, again, bring in the location aspect, because the people up where you are are nicer than the people are down here just in general.
That's true too. I'll give you that one.
So,
But yeah, it's a different dynamic. They don't care if you're a Democrat. Like that doesn't.
No, they never did when I went. They were nicer to me. And let me be clear, people, when I was running, the people in the Republican clubs were always way nicer to me than the people in the Democrat clubs. Always.
Yeah. And guys, this is coming from this is one of the reddest districts in the whole country. This is a +20 R district. So this is not some run-of-the-mill, swing district of any kind. This is hard red, and it will remain red for generations to come. And they could have whatever flippant attitude they want, like a lot of the Broward Democrats do. I don't know how much longer that's going to last, but that's neither here nor there. My point is that they are not necessarily going to agree with you, but they welcome you to be there.
Yeah.
If I was a Republican walking into a Democratic club and they knew I was a Republican, there would be a number of people in that room who would tell me to get lost.
Yes, they would ask you to leave.
You don't belong here.
Absolutely.
And that's why I do believe deep down the Democrats psychologically see themselves as the JV and the Republicans are the varsity. I do think that there is that element.
Well, they have definitely transitioned over to what I would refer to as new Coke, which, somebody who remembers when that happened, we neither asked for it nor did we want it.
I would definitely say that when Merck got up on his high horse and started talking about how, when me and my friends used to smoke weed back in the day, it's like, what? So you're anti-weed, you refer to your friends smoking weed back in the day, and he's like, but the weed is so much worse now. It's so much more potent. I'm like, where do
that's better, dude? Who wants less potent weed?
Seriously, where is he pulling this shit from? That's what I want to know. And I don't know. I said to Dimock's guy, and then I said to my friend John, who was there, who's a friend of Ali, who I mentioned to you about. And I said, I have never seen a wannabe politician, bury himself so badly in such a short period of time. Out of 10 candidates, if he clears the top 7, I'll be surprised. The only reason he might do decent is because he's got money. Now, in terms of who do I think is Patronus's top competition, when you get right down to it, I'm going to have to say it's Joel Rudman. This is his competition. So Rudman,
I vote against him merely for the stethoscope.
So Rudman is likely going to be his toughest competition because Rudman is actually a state house representative in Tallahassee. So he's got credentials. He's actually a rep, and he's a doctor.
And Patronus is what?
He's the CFO of the entire state.
So that's credential too.
I agree. I'm just saying in terms of, is there actual competition?
Although that's not necessarily a popular, like people don't know that person, like know who your representative is necessarily.
Yeah. No,
Answer David's question. Explain to him why you're not turning that seat blue. And now the better way to do it would be to run as an independent and be a populist in any seat that's red. But
I would say that
here it is.
Yeah. If you're running in politics, you have to know your audience. I can't lie to an audience like this when it comes to the separation of church and state. I am extremely libertarian when it comes to our Constitution. That's why I love Thomas Massie, although I will say Rudman gave a big shout out to Thomas Massie. He was right on it. And I give him credit. But here's the thing, Jen. This is the thing that you would have appreciated, even though you're a lefty. There was a biker gang, Bikers for Trump, that showed up. It was probably like a dozen of them. And they're all there for Rudman. And I'm telling you, these are hard-hitting bikers. These are the real deal. These are guys who ride on choppers.
See, those guys are definitely not anti-cannabis.
Not at all.
Exactly. So that's that's a weird dichotomy. Thank you.
But Rudman was trying to cut. He was trying to split the difference. Willie, thank you so much. As a socialist, that also makes me a civil libertarian, which means I favor the legalization of all drugs. Yeah, decriminalization at a minimum.
Yes.
Of all drugs.
Yes.
All allies, regardless of party and ideology, are welcome. So Rudman was the one person on the stage. Rudman was the one person who tried to split the difference. He said he's definitely in favor of medical marijuana. Okay, but This idea that you can't use the word decriminalization, everything's about legalization, you're just trying to appease an extremely socially conservative group of 70-plus-year-old boomers. That's basically it. There was no other reason.
They really see it as a gateway drug. They're concerned that the potheads will be taking over. I didn't have, like, the guy who I was talking to at the poll. I didn't have the nerve to tell him, "You're looking at one right now, and I'm high as a kite, dude."
Hey, you know what? The bottom line is there are definitely some people in that room who, if we're being honest, were Nixon era Republicans. These are people that hated the hippie movement.
Yeah, they're
they
anti-drug.
always have, and so they
squares. These are the squares, and they were very unpopular, and nobody liked them, and so they hated on the hippies.
I can't necessarily say if that's the case as far as that's concerned. But
why else would you want to like? Why else do you feel the need to rain on other people's parade unless you are a miserable fuck? In any circumstance, if you're a content person, you don't bother with what other people are doing if they're not hurting people. You don't get all the hippies and whatever. Only hateful, miserable fucks do stuff like that.
But this is also why Massey is the most popular Republican in the House by a wide margin. Because in Eastern Kentucky, which is technically part of the Rust Belt, they don't worry about things like that. But people in the Florida Panhandle, they worry about things that have absolutely no effect whatsoever on their personal life.
And what's the variable when you talk about comparing communities like that, places like Kentucky? What's it working people versus retired people? What's it social? What's the class difference?
Well, Massey represents one of the poorest districts in the country.
And where you are is probably has some wealthy retiree type
people.
Oh,
100%.
So the average income, a class difference.
Yeah, the average income in the community that I'm in, I think borders on like 80 or 90,000 a year.
Which is incredibly high for a retirement type
Correct.
place.
Correct. And so but overall, I would go back, like hanging out with those people. Absolutely.
Did they give you food?
Of course they did.
Then that's why you would go back.
Hey, I'm a whore for food. What can I say?
I know you're not turning down a free meal. So what do we have tonight? So we have a lot of stuff you got. We were like talking before. There's a lot of stuff we want to talk about, but where should we start?
And final thing I will say, just based on my personal assessment of everything that I saw in that room, Rudman will give a fight. I think he will. But at the end of the day, Jimmy Petronis is going to win that seat. And the election.
All right. So you guys heard it. Peter's prediction: Petronis will replace Gates. Yeah. And we'll see if we can get any of these guys who are running for that seat to come on the show at some point.
Yes.
All right. Onward.
So what we obviously have to cover tonight, there are a number of issues that are going on right now, but I made sure, well, we've all got those.
We've got issues.
Jen, I'm going to give you the honor since I know that this is something that you wanted to cover, but Mr. James Carville.
Yeah, but when you do him, you make him sound too much like Lindsey Graham.
Yeah, well, Mr. Carville from Nolans decided that he was going to go on with Michael Smerconish on CNN. Do you want me to play that clip for you?
Well, can you not? It's weird. But guys, so I don't know if you guys have seen this. I thought it was unusual. And the only reason I saw this was because Tim Black covered it last night. He played this clip and I thought I was hallucinating. But none other than James Carville has acknowledged
Carvel ice cream.
Well, and I have to love how Tim calls him that. He calls him Carvel. And it makes me think of our ice cream. But this was a very interesting thing because I have never in my life seen him or his ilk ever acknowledge any mistakes
that they fucked up.
Ever acknowledge mistakes.
And you know why I think Carville is making this statement, like a lot of others maybe, because I do think that there is this realization that they really fucked up and that they may have lost like a significant voting block for the future that they're not going to get back.
I think that, and I have some other theories on it, but play it. Like, let's play this clip, you guys. So this is the same person who the last time we played a clip from him was like in the camp of Kamala's going to win. She's doing great. Like, this is somebody who was delusional all the way until the last minute.
And I'll put it on the screen. I'll read it aloud. This is from the New York Times. Character, honesty, decency, intelligence, democracy, none of these seem to matter in our country when electing a president. I think that pretty much says it all. you would say what to that person?
I'd say, well, first of all, I totally agree with that person. It's very depressing. But if you're doing political strategy, you know, if you have an airplane crash, you got to go back and find out what went wrong. You don't say, well, let's just forget about it and move on. No, was the flap set in the right setting, or, you know, was there something that the pilot didn't pay attention to? I don't know, but it is sort of depressing. But, you know, Michael, there's a simple, basic rule of politics is voters want an election about them. They don't want an election about you or your opponent.
Okay,
and
stop.
For too much, we lost that. I lost it.
How is it that they didn't already know this, right? So this is like hold on to that for a second, because this goes as to my theory as to why he's doing this and what this is about. But like the fact that he makes this comment about what voters want and how somehow that's like was previously unknown to them. Okay. Wait, you're muted.
Now all you're going to do is get me to try to practice trying to challenge.
Okay, just play it. Continue the clip.
Myself, we made it about Trump, and we didn't make it about voters. And that's all. It's never a good idea. And how could I, at 80 years old, been doing this for 50 years, lapse into that level of stupidity? You know, I got to ask myself.
Because they paid you to, you schmuck.
Exactly. There's that. Was that the whole clip? Was that the whole
That's
clip?
That's it.
Okay. So
thank you, Brett. And hey, we need
Peter
to do,
and I
we need to have, you know what
discussed
we need to have, Jen and Colin, we need to add, like Jordan has on Status Quo, we need to add a call-in option. Like we should have.
Oh my God. Now you're talking a whole new level of technology.
Well,
That's a whole new level for us.
I don't think it's that common.
I want to just finish talking about the Carville thing before you get me distracted, which is what you do. And I can't afford distraction. So you were suggesting to me earlier that you think that Carville was willing to go public and say this. Your perception was, oh, they must have stopped paying him, so he's willing to admit the truth. Whereas my thought is that no. I think that they're paying him specifically to be the one to fall on the sword for this. That's what I think. Because there's no way that someone, like he just said, he's 80 years old. He's been doing this forever. And he didn't know that in an election, it needs to be about voters and not about you. That is the dumbest thing ever. And it's just too convenient to all of a sudden be so self-aware about a basic premise. That's why I think they have paid Carville to go take one for the team. That's what I think.
Maybe. I think that I sometimes think that these mea culpas end up happening because if they saw anything that gave them reason to believe that there were some silver linings out of this election, that they would use them for all they're worth. The fact of the matter is they don't have any silver linings. The other thing that I think the Republicans have over the Democrats that they're not talking about right now, and they're not going to, because this is something that will be way too much of a red flag, is that I do think that there probably is an age schism between the two parties right now. I think that the Democratic Party is probably very reflective in their own representation. They are probably a much older demographic within the party now.
Yeah.
Trump got a very sizable millennial and especially Gen Z vote in this election. To me, that's the scariest thing of all, because they know that you've said it for how many years, Jen? Every year, a portion of Debbie's voting block dies off, which means
and they don't register new voters.
No,
let's be very clear. Most
she's
voters do not register as Democrats.
Let's put it this way: as much as I would like her to be gone now, it wouldn't surprise me if Wasserman Schultz may be gone in probably 2 or 3 election cycles.
Right, because
that's how fast
turn red.
It's how fast it's changing, and the Democrats are simply inept to change. And I've made that clear.
They're dying off. What's the average age down here in Broward at a Dem Club meeting is like deceased.
Yeah. Well, it's not even that. Like I said, I think that the age is fairly similar in that respect, based on what I saw in Broward versus what I see in Okaloosa, Escambia, and Walton County. But what you can see is the difference is that the boomers on this side of the aisle are much more active. They are much more into this stuff. They have a lot of zest for life in a way that does not exist with those boomer Dems that permeate through the Tri-County area, particularly in Broward County.
Yeah.
There is a difference. You will notice that energy. It's very obvious when you
Well,
walk.
Carville is one prime, like to me, he's representative of that dying party. And the fact that they at least are going to feign some amount of learning from this experience, but they're not going to really do anything different because at the end of the day, they still have the same corporate sponsors. So it really doesn't matter what lessons they learn because they can't afford to give a crap what regular people think.
You are not going to go to the heart of the problem, which is that corporate special interests have captured our government, then it doesn't matter. It is irrelevant. And that is why what we're facing right now in terms of this sort of titanic shift of circumstance pertaining to healthcare, which is the biggest issue on the domestic side.
Are you segueing? Are you doing a segue?
Did I do it good?
It was pretty good. I was like trying to figure out where you're going with that, but okay. We're doing a segue into what's our next story? What do you got, Pete?
So we've pointed out many times before that I personally think that Tucker Carlson has been doing a great job with his show. I don't have to agree with him politically on much of anything. I just need to know that the podcast he's running is informative, it is honest, and it is going to get to the heart of a lot of these problems. So a couple of days ago, I believe on Friday or Saturday, it was a few days ago, he had on a gentleman by the name of Brigham Bueller. And
Bueller.
And Bueller is somebody who unfortunately lost his brother to opioid addiction. And this is a person who really gets into the true nature of UnitedHealth and why Luigi Mangione likely did what he did.
So how do you want to break this up? Because you told me it's like a little bit long.
I've broken these up into two segments.
Okay.
One is about 7 minutes. The other is about 2.5. I'm going to play the 2.5 segment first because this gets to the heart of where somebody who is bringing it to Tucker's audience. Listen, over 600,000 people have already viewed this on YouTube, and Lord knows how many more are going to see it. But this is what Bueller had to say regarding the deception that exists within private insurance led by UnitedHealth and what may, in their opinion, led to the decision that Luigi Mangione made where he felt that he needed to fire a shot.
Don't understand this. Medicare and Medicaid after Obamacare has all been outsourced to the big insurance companies. So 60% of United's healthcare's profits are coming from Medicare and Medicaid. And how do they negotiate the Medicare and Medicaid prices? They negotiate it by looking at the average wholesale price in America and saying, we want a discount. Well, that average wholesale price is a bullshit price because they set the market, but they didn't pay that price. Is this making sense at all? So just follow the dollars. Okay, $100 a month. They didn't pay the 100, they paid 50. They tell the employer they paid the 100. At the end of the year, that employer is going to get hit with the cost going into the following year. All of those copays, deductibles, all that goes up. Then you, the patient, get hit. And so when they decide what drugs to put on a formulary, what drugs they're going to cover, it has nothing to do with the efficacy and what is best for the patient. It has everything to do with who gave them the biggest rebate. And they incentivize you to go to those drugs by lowering your copay and deductible on those drugs. So with opioids, they made it very easy to get an opioid because it was getting a rebate. But they made it very difficult to get a non-addictive product like a pain cream. And then eventually they just said, we won't cover pain creams at all. You're going to have.
So do you understand how fucked up that is? The whole purpose of, again, Big Pharma catches a lot of the flack and they rightfully so deserve it. But this is private insurance working hand in glove with Big Pharma, basically saying, we are only going to subsidize the addictive product, what is going to get you hooked on narcotics and is going to completely destroy your life because at the end of the day, it's all about money and power. And that's it.
But the same companies like United have bought every element of the process, right? Every step in the game, so that they are connected to the pharmaceutical industry financially.
Correct.
They own them.
Hook,
It's
line,
all
and sinker.
connected.
And so anybody out there who is not espousing a single payer system at this point, like, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Because there is no other way to remove
Although we have
this
felt
shit.
that way for 5 years.
Well, yeah, but this is the only way you remove that shit. Single payer is the only way. There is no other way. And you know what? It works in every developed nation on the planet. And that's the truth.
To take an opioid. Then to go even deeper, that's just the prescription.
And this is what happened to your brother.
This is 100% what happened to my brother and what happened to millions and millions of Americans. And it's still happening to this day. And so I'll paint a picture for you. Imagine being a young kid with a spine issue and you're in pain. And this particular spine issue causes the sensation of burning and fire shooting into your hands, your feet, your extremities. And the worst of it all, a large percentage of these male patients with this spine issue experience burning and fire in their genitals. Fire and pain shooting into your genitals and extremities. In the insurance model with UnitedHealthcare, you're going to have to go to a primary care first. That's going to take 2 months to get in with that primary care. You're dealing with this pain and suffering the whole time. Now, you get in with the primary care. They go, whoa, got 6 minutes with you. This is out of my wheelhouse. I'm going to refer you to a specialist. You go to a specialist. That's going to take months. Oftentimes, you have to argue with the insurance, right? Deny, delay, depose. You're going to argue with that insurance company, begging them to allow you to go to a specialist. Your primary care may even have to get on the phone and get a prior auth and negotiate it for you. Now you finally get in with a specialist. Specialist says, I want to order an MRI. A lot of times, the insurance companies will deny the MRI or delay it. So now you've got a battle for that. That's going to be another 3 or 4 months. The gist of it is the average spine patient takes 6 to 9 months before they ever really even get an answer. And then they've got to negotiate to get into the surgery. And now you finally get the day in the sun where you're finally feeling like you're going to get relief and you're going to get that surgery that you desperately needed. But the whole time they've been selling you opioids to keep your pain level down because that's the only option you have. So now you get your approval and you say, I found the best surgeon in the country. I want to go to this guy. That's not how it works. The insurance company tells you who you're allowed to go see.
Well, of course.
In a single payer system, this bullshit wouldn't exist. There is no marketplace like Obamacare. Nothing. The free market still exists. Whoever the best doctor is, if you want to wait to see the best doctor, then that's who you can see, because that's how it works. There are doctors that are exceptional at their job, and they have a backlog of months. The same thing would still exist, only you wouldn't go broke. It's a single payer system. It is government funded, not government run. Know the difference.
The truth is the people who know, they know the difference.
Of course. Of course. And that's why fear has always played a role. But if conversations like this continue to get out there, like I said, I believe in my heart of hearts that single payer is simply inevitable now, because you are never putting this back in the bag. There are too many of these stories out there that are going to continue to spread, and the only solution is single payer. And here, at the end, is where the most poignant message is delivered.
And they say, yeah, he's not in our network. You've got to go to this other doctor. And then that doctor botches the surgery. It wasn't the surgeon you wanted. You waited 9 months to get this thing done, and that surgeon messes up your surgery. That's what happened to this kid, Luigi. That can you imagine how he could have lost his mind and gone crazy?
Yes.
And what's unfortunate is that's what's happening to millions and millions of Americans every day.
Which is why I've been saying for many years that I think things are going to get more violent. And people are just getting desperate and they're losing their minds. Like, this is not, people living with chronic pain, that's violence towards them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
We
wouldn't have issues with that. We have the resources in this country. We actually have some of the best healthcare in the world available
If
in
you
this
have the money.
country. Yes, for people who can afford it, for wealthy people. Like what I'm saying is like the technology, the doctors, the stuff that's available in this country is some of the best in the world. That's true.
That's all they care about. That's it. Well, if we can't get money out of them, what the hell's the point?
Well, and also when you delay, then you obviously you're increasing all the different meds, and you're also holding on to the money for a longer period of time before you would have to like disperse it to whatever, you would have to pay out. So that's one of the reasons they delay, just to hold on to everybody's money.
Now, the thing that they've mentioned and we've heard, but remember, we're never going to know for sure exactly what Luigi's motivation was. I think we have a pretty good idea of what it was about. I think it's a conglomerate of a lot of different things. But we've heard repeatedly that he was dealing with chronic back issues, that he was dealing with impotence issues as a result of the chronic back problem. And if that's true, and the guy basically just reached his breaking point, and it is entirely likely that he had UnitedHealth, and they denied, delayed, and deposed, and he just decided, okay, I really have nothing to lose.
Right. That's what happens.
Handsome guy in really good shape, but you know what? If you are in chronic pain all day, every day, your outsides sure as shit don't look like your insides.
No, it's miserable. That's miserable. Especially when it's something that could be treated. It's, that's what's infuriating. It's like if you had healthcare that they did everything they could and you had pain, that's unfortunate and that sucks. But we are not even giving people an option. And it's so intentional and so nefarious, and it is violent. That's violence.
Very much.
And it's class war, and it's infuriating. And, no, not in the case of Luigi in terms of class, but the concept that we're dealing with in terms of not having healthcare and this whole, our rich friends profiting as middlemen is the result of a class system that is the problem. It's the problem.
And it will not change until the entire system is uplifted.
Yeah.
That's it. There is no other solution. There is no kicking the can down the road. There is no, well, maybe we will make an exception here. We'll make an exception there. Let me tell you something. If Trump had half a brain, which I think he does sometimes,
which half though? Which half?
They couldn't run to the table fast enough and reduce the age of Medicare from 65 to 55 fast enough. That is like the minimum that they should be thinking about throwing a bone to the American people.
Never going to happen.
Not going to do it.
Of course
not. They would rather blow up the whole fucking thing than to even give the people an inch. You know why? Because the money is too fucking good. And they're basically daring us. They are daring us to stop paying our copays, to stop paying our premiums, to riot. They are daring the people to fight back. That's what they're daring. Because
again, we have to sort of have the disclaimer. We're not telling people to go out and be violent, but I am a big believer in that you reap what you sow, and I do support the natural and logical consequences of actions coming to fruition. That's just something I support happening. So whatever that looks like, it looks like. And in a place with open access to firearms all over the place, I think it looks pretty friggin' violent.
We do have some other stories to cover.
Okay,
we don't want to go too late tonight.
No, let's go into something else.
Colin, I'm going to ask you to hold that first clip from Bueller and Tucker, and we'll cover that on Thursday, because that's another topic regarding Luigi that we can cover. We don't have to, beat it to death. But
what else?
But it is important, and I think that was very important. And so when we talk about entitlement, because our country, when you think about what Vivek said recently, what Elon has said about the entitlement of the American people, and there's no question that there is entitlement in the United States. We do have that issue. But if you think we're an entitled nation because we get too much, that we are too protected of a class, trust me, there is no comparison. There is but one nation that stands above the others. And even though I do not regard this as a real nation, sorry, I just don't. And that was one thing that I must say, Jen, that I did enjoy about being in this room tonight. Not one word about well, you know who I'm talking about. So this, and Phil, thank you for the $10. For June 4, 2024, FDA voted to block legal access to MDMA assisted therapy for PTSD because they claim it doesn't work in blood. Of course, PTSD brains are not different by race. Every hour, a U.S. military vet self-unalives from PTSD.
Yes,
I will
it's
tell you.
rampant. It's rampant. And by the way, yeah, because race is not a real thing. It's not a biological thing. It's a social construct. So of course there's not different.
I don't agree. No, I don't agree with you on that. What I will say though is that
it's not a matter of agreeing or disagreeing. That's just scientific fact.
no, it's a physiological makeup. There are different components that come from different genotypes. What I'm saying
has
is
nothing to do, but it's
not with
race.
this. Not with this. This
Not
is ridiculous.
regarding race, ethnicity, heritage. Yes. National origin, sometimes. Race is not a thing as far as biology.
Is Israel a race?
No, but I knew you were, as soon as you started talking about entitlement, I'm thinking, well, the most entitled people on planet Earth are the Israelis. So what do you got?
In the latest world of I am an entitled bitch. Apparently, if you're on an airplane and you see somebody wearing a watermelon pin, Jen, you got those watermelon earrings handy by any chance?
But I'm wearing the Palestine earrings.
You're also wearing a keffiyeh.
Lord knows I am also wearing a keffiyeh.
Okay. We see a lot of these clips on Instagram a lot. This one. Well, just watch.
Okay, let's see what you got here.
You're supporting terrorism with your pin. You made us feel uncomfortable as being Jewish.
Yeah, no, you don't touch me. You're the one who touched me.
You're supporting terrorism.
What
are you stopping me at? Because I'm Jewish? Because I'm Jewish?
Because I'm Jewish?
They all say that. They all say that. Are you declining to serve me because I'm Jewish? No, because you're a piece of shit. That's why. Because you're a Zio-Nazi. All right, continue.
No, because I'm Jewish? Yeah, you are.
We don't know that you're Jewish.
Is that why you're stopping me?
No,
you're being anti-Semitic.
You are harassing
Let
the crew.
me get off this plane right now.
You are harassing the crew.
Let me get off this plane.
We're calling the police right now. You
are
are harassing the crew.
I'm harassing the crew?
Yes, you are.
You're not letting me off this plane.
Yes, you are. You're harassing
What
the
am
crew
I
right
doing? Trying to get off this plane.
You touched me.
Who are you?
Don't touch
Get
me.
away
Who
from
are you to touch me?
Get away from
No,
me.
you are not getting off this plane.
This is ridiculous.
You are ridiculous.
Don't record her,
I'm
sir.
recording
Don't
whatever I
record
want.
You
her.
are not permitted
Get
to
away.
record.
You're
Get
not
out.
allowed to record.
You are
You're
not.
not allowed to record.
She won't let me out.
No, you're not. Because he touched me. And you guys are harassing the crew with your...
And we know that this gentleman is Israeli, correct?
100%. And one thing here's what I believe happened. And I don't need to know the whole facts of the story, but here's what I am very confident in saying. He was probably getting off the plane. He may have been waiting. He was all pent up with rage. He walks up to the woman and tries to rip the pin off her jacket.
Well, something like that. So you think it was on there, right? So it was after the flight. So he had seen it the whole flight and didn't say anything and then waited. Well, we don't know. I mean, but you know, the examples of this are overwhelming. And I am happy to say that there are countries that are now denying visas to Israelis to travel to their countries. I think that we all need to be, I mean, when I say we all, like as if there's any chance in hell that this country would ever like reject the Israelis. But
you're stuck down there, Jen.
Oh, I'm not
You're
here
punished.
for I think we should give them South Florida and evacuate. But anyway, they'll let them go down under the ocean. But the Israelis are so the level of entitlement is just so off the wall with these people that it's just unbelievable to me. But other countries should really consider joining in. Not only do I not think they should be allowed to travel places, forget just the whole thing that happened with their soccer team fans and all of that nonsense. In general, these people that are predominantly the majority of them are genocidal, don't need to be given visas and traveling around the world. I would be very happy to stop allowing them to come into this country. That's the thing. It's absurd to me. We have a major immigration problem here because of that. To me, that's what I notice in my community. When people say there's an immigration problem, I'm thinking, yeah, you mean all the Israelis that are coming here? Yes, it's a huge problem.
He puts his hands on this woman. And of course, it's always, the other thing that I've noticed is that there is a lot of physical violence by men towards women. You know, it's kind of ironic that we're putting this clip up right now, because there was a report that was dropped earlier today. I don't remember the publication. I'm sure you guys in the audience know, because I haven't had a chance to really dig into it. But it turns out that there has not been a single reported case of rape.
Correct.
On October 7th.
Correct.
Not a single one.
Correct. The Israeli, the prosecutor, I'm forgetting the name of but the prosecutor's, let's just say the prosecutor's office has released a report saying that they have been unable to gather any evidence to seek any sort of prosecution because there's no evidence and there have been no victims that have come forward and they have no testimony. Thank you, Sajad Nasir. Israelis are the most rudest people ever. You know what? They are hands down the most entitled people on the planet. I don't know if they're the rudest people ever, because I grew up in South Florida. So just general South Floridians are pretty friggin' rude. So they kind of, regarding rudeness, they just sort of blend in down here. Rudeness is, I guess, just, you know what, where I'm so jaded by it because I grew up in South Florida. So everybody's rude is whatever. Genocidal and entitled is problematic.
Thank you, Gone Fishing. 2 jobs that all humans had to become human beings. Simply take care of one another as the brother and sisters you are, and together you take care of the planet that takes care of you. Well,
that's what I'm trying to do.
If you are brought up to believe,
that's so indigenous. I love that.
But if you
that's
are
a very
brought up to
indigenous
believe,
saying. It sounds like something that was translated from something indigenous.
If you're brought up to believe that you are the chosen people, then you do believe in chosen privileges. Like, I can assault a woman because I'm offended by her watermelon pin. First of all, the fact that she was wearing a watermelon pin, you immediately assume that she's supporting Israel or supporting Palestine.
Well, that's a fair assumption. That's the fair assumption. That's okay. So he could assume that. That's his problem. The fact that he felt that he had the entitlement to address her about it rudely, let alone put hands on her.
Oh, he put hands on her.
Off the wall.
That's why they weren't letting him leave.
So do we know what happened with that? Because I hope that he was probably then detained.
He probably was. I don't know the full extent of it. I saw the clip and I said, well, this needs to be talked about, because clearly remember, he was trying to flee the plane. So who knows to the extent of what actually went down. And that woman put herself in harm's way. And she said, you're not leaving this plane. We called the police. You have assaulted our colleague. You are not allowed to leave. And this guy is pulling why? Because I'm Jewish? Why? Because I'm Jewish?
I saw something like that the other day. It was a restaurant or a cafe owner, and this was in another country. I want to say it might have been, it was another country, but they were not allowing this obviously very Zio-Israeli family. They didn't let them come in, and they kept saying, because we're Jewish. And it's so obvious that that's like,
listen, Zios,
old talking point.
Listen, Zios, you're going to get to and this is why I have a lot of criticism for the Jewish community, because a significant portion of the Jewish community does not agree with this shit. But they are also an extremely passive community. and they do not stand up to their fellow Jews who are using Zionism as a weapon against Judaism.
But a
Why
lot of
do-
it is self-preservation and financial preservation. I mean,
it,
look
it
at
is
what we
without
happened.
question, it is financial preservation. Without question.
And I don't, but I don't fault Jews in that way any more than I fault anyone else for not speaking up. I have this general concept that we all have a duty to speak up, but I also understand that people are in varying circumstances and livelihoods are at stake. And so as a matter of just, that's just the way it is. So yes, ideally everybody would stand up and say something, but I'm not going to specifically hold that against particularly Jewish people any more than anyone else.
No, I definitely agree with you. And I do think that it's a bigger problem because I do think that it's the sort of the decay of neoliberalism. And Sajid Nasir, again, thank you so much. Trudeau was a Sajid Nasir. Trudeau was a typical ineffective liberal, but Polivier is going to really mess up Canada and a bigger Zionist married to a snobby elite Venezuelan. Now,
that's a horrid combination.
And so here's where I think that the rubber meets the road. And I think we could learn a lot from Canada, in terms of, for those of you who are just tuning in and may not know, but Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, resigned this afternoon from his post. And I think that there are many reasons why he did. Apparently, there was a lot of people who were not happy about him going to Mar-a-Lago and meeting with Trump.
You think that's why he resigned?
I think there's probably more to it than that.
I'm sitting here in my mind and thinking, I wonder if he ever attended a Diddy party. That's what I'm sitting here thinking. Like nowadays, when anybody steps down and resigns from anything, the first thing that comes to mind is maybe they were at a Diddy party.
Wendy, I just have to say your profile picture is awesome. So
I don't see what it says. I just see that it's JFK.
Our government kills.
Oh, yes, it does.
And yes, Canada. And so what are they doing now? Well, it's kind of a reflection of what ends up happening with neoliberal politics.
Okay.
Canada is a prime example under Trudeau that has gone in a horrifically bad direction, especially as it comes to civil liberties. We all remember what happened when they basically took away the pensions and the livelihoods of the truckers who did not want to take the vaccine. I had no problem with it whatsoever. If they didn't want to take it, that's their business. This idea that you have to take it because they were coming into the United States, that was a level of insanity where they froze their bank accounts. Yeah. That's neoliberalism on steroids of the worst kind.
Well, that's authoritarian. I mean, that's completely like authoritarian. But yeah, because they feel the need to control what everybody does because their friends can find a way to profit from it.
Trudeau is somebody who is just reflective in this sort of dying ideology. This idea that you can pretend to be socially liberal of the worst kind and then fiscally conservative of the worst kind. And that's neoliberalism. And in many ways, that's what's hurt Canada for so long.
He's white Canadian Obama. He's always been that to me.
Well, that's how I guess he always saw himself. But I don't think there's a lot of people who truly understand just how powerful the Trudeau family is and how
it's like a dynasty,
how dynastic the family really is.
Yeah.
And so that's how a lot of these guys get elected. Although I will say, as much as you say he's the Obama equivalent, I don't know. I see him as I saw Trudeau as much like Newsom. I think that they had
same difference. What difference is that? How about Newsom is the same difference? Neoliberal milquetoast crap.
Colin, if you have the clip from Trudeau earlier today, just making his announcement, if you want to grab that. I can't. If
nobody ever suggested that neoliberalism was limited to North America. Neoliberalism is a global problem. It's a global economic philosophy that was definitely facilitated and pushed in this country very heavily by, certain people, and going back to like Reagan, even going back to Nixon.
I have to
The
say
idea of
that
privatizing and profiting off of different service industries is,
there is no question. I do think that they jumped the shark when they pulled that stunt with the Canadian truckers, where they froze their assets. That was, I mean, that's like Stalinism. Like that's
what I'm saying. That's authoritarian, and it's very scary.
It is.
But that's what, and the problem is that the people that are neoliberals try to project themselves like they are so liberal, but not when it comes to protecting their capital.
Yeah, and no, it's 1,000% about protecting capital.
Of course.
That's why you see on the state side so much reverence for Liz Cheney. And we're gonna get to the grand finale in a few minutes, and I think you guys know what it is.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have to talk about some of those presidential awards that were given out, aren't we?
Oh, come on, man! But here's what the former Prime Minister of Canada had to say today.
Last night over dinner, I told my kids about the decision that I'm sharing with you today. I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Last night, I asked the President of the Liberal Party to begin that process. This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election.
Okay, I need to find out what Gone Fishing is talking about. We need to talk about what Gone Fishing said, but then also Philip made a comment about Jane Goodall not clapping, and I'm assuming that he means she didn't clap for Hillary.
Probably.
Who was the most, there were some nefarious people that got medals.
Colin, if you have obviously the image of Hillary and Biden, as well as Hillary and her standing ovation.
Wait, before we move on, though, what did you want to talk about Justin Trudeau's? I had seen the clip of him resigning, but I have no idea what the backstory is. But there's a backstory. There's always a backstory. This isn't anything. And honestly, to me, just as somebody, and I am not like saying I'm like an expert on like body language or reading people, this seems like sort of against his will to me.
I think that there's a lot of internal problems going on in Canada. I think that it could potentially stem from some of the economic policies that Trump is going to enact as soon as he gets in. I think Trump may even have an axe to grind with Trudeau. And it may just be that it's a fight that he just doesn't want to deal with. There's also a lot of, like I said, potential skeletons in his closet. And if
that brings up, I'm telling you, ain't no party like a Diddy party.
I definitely agree with David. He looked very uncomfortable in that presser.
He's being forced out by something. Now, whatever their party politics are, I don't know. I really do not know enough about Canadian politics, but he definitely looked like somebody that had something to hide and was like on the run. Like he looked like something.
We have always maintained that Trump has always kept very shady company. There's no two ways about it. He was definitely chummy with Epstein. However, if there was ever any proof that he was ever on that island, you better believe it would have come.
Oh yeah. No, I actually don't think Trump has been to the island. First of all, why would he? Trump's way big on people coming to him. He doesn't usually go to them. And it's just, I'm just like, I could see that it makes sense to me that he wouldn't have gone there.
And you could say whatever you want, but I will tell you, Trump has never had a problem in the woman department. He just hasn't. He's always done well there. Just like Clinton has always done well there.
Yes, but the pool is,
different.
Look, let's be real. Like, him and Melania, that ended a long time ago.
I'm sure it did. And
And all I can say, and I said this after he left office last time, that if he comes back, like when we were going into that election, I'm like, I just hope she's negotiated a better deal for a second term if she has to go back.
You don't think 20 million was in the cards? You think it was more than that?
I don't know. I don't know what her deal was for a second term that she had to play first lady, but I'm sure it was a nice deal. It wasn't inexpensive. And hopefully she negotiated something really good. But now that the kid is an adult, isn't Barron, he's the same age as Graham. So I think he's like 18, right? He's an adult now. So she doesn't need to be there. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no need that she needs to be there. So she better have negotiated a sweet deal for herself.
Time will tell. So we definitely saved the best for last. Look, as long as you've known me, as long as you've known Jen, Wasserman Schultz at the local level is definitely the bane of my political existence. But at the national level, this is the worst person I've ever seen.
Guys, look at this. So for people who do not know, in addition to all of Joe's, really fun pardons and clemencies, he's also going out with the bang of giving his, medals. He's got his presidential freedom medals. He's got his citizen, whatever these bullshit medals are. The look on her face for people this is a picture of Joe Biden putting a medal on Hillary Clinton. This is so disgusting to me. This should let everyone know that this medal means absolutely nothing. Nothing. And that makes me sad for Michael J. Fox, who I saw was somebody who did get one. And actually, I was happy to see that because good for him. But this woman getting a medal is insane. Now, I also do believe that she probably paid very handsomely for it. And that this goes back to the 20 campaign and them all pooling behind Joe and basically putting him in. She forced him to take Kamala as the running mate. That was one of the arrangements. And this was probably another one of the arrangements. I have no doubt that in one way or another, this was bought or bullied for, blackmailed or extorted. But because there's no way that anybody thinks that's earned.
Her relevancy in politics died 5-6 years ago. The idea that you're going to wheel her out just moments before you're going out to pasture, and you're going to give her this pomp and circumstance, because that's all it is.
It's so gross.
The Presidential Medal of Freedom is actually supposed to represent the best of what a president is supposed to do. When you are representing those who are actually selfless actors, people that are actually trying to do right in the world. Hillary has only done wrong. And what makes this even more insulting and offensive is the fact that it's the Presidential Medal of Freedom. This is to somebody who has advocated, supported, and fought for every single endless war that has existed since she's been in politics.
Well, this isn't a Nobel Peace Prize, in all fairness. I don't know that it necessarily has to be to the peacemongers of the world, but this is somebody who, while serving in public office, said, "We came, we saw, he died," with a smile. Like, this is somebody that is just so grotesque and despicable. And that's why I know, like, this was, she paid for this. She bought that.
How long did she sit? How long did she sit in the beauty parlor to get her hair done?
Oh my God, they glued it like that. But do we by any chance have a list of all the people that there were like 2 different types of awards, but because there were some actually decent people, and it makes me sad for them. Like, it makes me sad for people like Michael J. Fox, that the credibility, Denzel Washington, I suppose. I mean, but like Jane Goodall, if that was one of the people.
No one's ever going to remember any of them.
Well,
They're
not just,
remember
no,
this.
this isn't about remembering that. It's just that it really sort of takes away the credibility of this honor that they're sharing it with this person. If that is true, that whoever put that in the chat about that Jane Goodall didn't clap when this happened, first of all, well, that woman's amazing anyway, because it's Jane Goodall. But I would love to know, like, who else was sitting there and be a fly on the wall for, you know.
Apparently this is the moment where the queen of the warmongers herself decided to stand up and receive her very coordinated standing ovation from the room full of.
I'm so disgusted. She's just so gross. Notice Jane Goodall. Excellent. Look at her. She's not even. I'm so gross at. This is so gross.
See that guy in the back?
Which one?
Just
Which,
look.
Yeah, what
He's
about him? Who is that?
I don't know who he is, but he can't stop grinning.
He's something.
Oh, he's something, all right.
Look at Jane Goodall. Yeah, she is just.
She doesn't look good.
No.
She's been around the block one too many times. She's like, I can't sit through this bullshit.
Well, she knows who that is.
Hillary really looks, I mean, again, this is like psychopathic behavior. Like Hillary really believes that she earned this Presidential Medal of Freedom.
She knows the truth because she knows she bought it. She bought all of it. She put Joe in that seat. She made him take Kamala. That didn't work, in terms of her winning. But damn it, if she's not getting a medal out of it.
Yeah. I mean, think about it, guys. Hillary had to suffer through this again. Like, that's election night 2024. Of all the people that Kamala could be sitting next to when it became clear that she was going to lose, this is who she sits next to.
And I love and their facial expressions is so great to me. And Kamala's folded arms. Hillary's just like, yeah, well, I guess they foiled again. We got foiled again. But Kamala just really looks like very put off by the whole thing. And that was, of course, the night that she couldn't see fit to go and address people that were there for her.
No.
She was too busy sitting with one of Les Crones Miserables. I might have I might have that. I wonder if I put that in here. I don't think I did. Oh, I did. Les Miserables Crones, Tales of Entitled Bitter Women. That should be the cover art for that book should be that picture of Hillary and Kamala. They are Les Miserables Crones.
It also speaks to a much greater problem, which is there is still a portion of the electorate that really enjoys this pomp and circumstance. Although I do believe that it's a very small portion now. They just happen to be very influential.
It's the same people that probably watch the Grammys or the Golden Globes, rather. Wasn't that on? I think that was on.
Yes, that was on last night. And
I don't watch it. I don't care. The
I.
only thing that I actually, on occasion, do is I do look at some of the dresses after the fact because they are some of them really pretty. So I do that after the fact. But I don't. The whole idea that these people are on pedestals, less despicable.
That's a good one.
But like the whole concept of celebrity and the fascination with it and all of that is so disgusting to me that the whole premise is just so gross that I just won't support it or watch it. I don't believe in celebrity worship, celebrity based on what? Based on what? Like I have definitely people that I get like Dr. West, like there's definitely people that I get a little bit.
But people that actually
they're really friggin' smart and I don't want to be stupid. But like these celebrities I don't understand the pedestal.
All award shows are a club. All of these events.
I have no interest.
All the pomp and circumstance. There is of no value to it at all.
It's a bunch of rich people patting themselves on their backs and just getting richer. And it's just so out of touch. It's so absurd. I have no interest in it. I do like good movies and I do appreciate good acting. And I have no problem with people being recognized for good acting. However, these events are so far, like it's capitalism and corporatism. It's just so disgusting.
Yeah, it is. And I think Hillary just kind of embodies that sort of dying component of our political arena. Everything about her just, she's a tired old hag.
She's a miserable crone.
And she feels it's almost like she feels validated or vindicated. It's like she got a participation trophy.
I don't think she really feels that way because she knows that she paid for it. She demanded it. It's not you when you don't really earn something. you know the truth. You know the truth and you live with that truth. You know who you are. You know what you did. You know who you bullied. So I don't know. And there's no way that she didn't somehow command, demand, and create that.
I get it. I get it.
There's
I
no
also
way.
think that it's not even about being butthurt, Chris.
Oh, she's butthurt over so many things.
Hillary is psychologically broken over 2016. She did everything.
Well, the truth is she was psychopathic before that, though.
Correct. But
So,
then she turned it up to an 11. She literally she rigged it in every conceivable way, and the people still rejected her.
Uh-huh. And then it just happened to her again via Kamala, her surrogate, now. And
everyone who is a political aficionado of any level knows that Kamala was brought out to the Hamptons in the summer of 2017, and it was established at that time that she was the heir apparent to Hillary's bundlers, financiers. This is who we're getting behind now. When it became obvious that they couldn't sell her to the electorate, they had to manufacture her in. And so they made her the VP. Not because that's who Joe Biden wanted. Frankly, Joe Biden.
No.
It wasn't even that
I
Joe
don't
Biden.
even think he would, honestly, what that picture of him putting that thing on her. If he had his faculties, because again, I think Joe's not really with it right now anyway. No. But if he were, I don't think he likes her either.
No. Oh, I never.
He probably thinks she's a raving cunt, and having to stand there and put that on her. This was, first of all, even in a president who's completely lucid, I don't know how much personal control they have over who gets that. I'm sure it's not just their choice, but this was really not within his control.
Colin, do you have that text message that I sent you earlier?
What else do you have down there? What's that?
It's just the last thing that I want to cover for today.
No, there's that other Carville thing. What is that?
It was a video with Jen Psaki. I'm not going to forget that. I'm not going to.
All right, we're not going to, because we've already hashed out James Carville.
Carville, yeah.
Okay, Tim says it really funny.
So we would be amiss before we go not to address what today is. Today is that very, very tragic day.
I honestly would have never remembered.
Where we almost lost our bought-off republic.
We almost... Chris Garrett, did I offend you with the C word? Oh, my goodness.
I'm very broken up about this day. I feel like Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon and Stephen Colbert. But you know,
we all almost lost everything because of the QAnon shaman and his podium stealers almost stole our republic from us.
But this text message it made the rounds today. Joseph, I was working from home on January 6th. Then we saw it. Trump's mob storming our Capitol. My heart stopped. People I helped elect were inside that building. At 6:55 p.m., I finally saw a message from AOC. I'm okay. Those words took me straight back to Afghanistan. Taliban martyrs. Base lockdown. Me texting my husband. I'm okay. But I wasn't okay then. And America isn't okay now. So give me more money.
Who is that from? And Peter added this, so give me more money. What is that?
Well, this is a text message for money.
That's from who?
Some person. I just saw it. I grabbed it. I said, yep, this pretty much is the same message that they're all throwing out there.
Well, they need some fundraising material. What else are they going to do? They already lost. They're stuck with him in there for another 4 years. So they're going to have to fundraise off of something. So why not keep fear-mongering about what almost happened with the QAnon shaman and the podium guy?
Here's what I will say about January 6th. Do I think that there were ill-intended people that went to the Capitol? Absolutely. It's about 100,000. It's about 100,000 people that went there. About 500 of them were able to get inside the Capitol. But make no mistake, the only reason that anybody was able to get into that Capitol was because the feds allowed them in.
There's a lot of very weird variables about it, but at the end of the day, anybody who really, I find it hard to believe that anybody with any real knowledge about anything truly felt that our democracy was at stake. Like, that to me is just so like ridiculously hyperbolic.
You needed the United States military at least 100, if not 200,000 deep, to basically declare martial law and put the country on lockdown on January 6, 2021.
Oh, it would take even way more than that. In fact, I'm pretty sure at the time Bo did a video about it, explaining how logistically this was not even a possible thing that could happen.
Now, do I think that there was effery in the election in 2020? Yeah, I do. But
every election.
But not for the reasons that, you know, Trump and his people are espousing.
Don't we think there's effery in every election?
I think once it was obvious, because if there's one thing that the Democratic Party does do that the Republicans generally don't, Republicans just like to kick people off of ballots. That's their way of cheating. But Democrats ballot harvest. You know how easy it is to ballot harvest when every single voter in the entire country gets a mail-in ballot? Trust me, it's a lot easier. That's part of the reason why they fight hard against it. So, do I think that there was something to the efforts of Google and the billionaire class that did not want Trump as president anymore? Do I think that they made a concerted effort to frame his coverage in a very negative light and Biden's in a very positive light? Absolutely. Do I think that the suppression of the Hunter Biden laptop played a role? Absolutely. It was a collection of a lot of different things. But COVID, when you stand on ceremony and talk about January 6th, and in many cases people did, saying that it was worse than Pearl Harbor, you're fucked up. Like,
they have those are the people that are doing that to me, or like, that's in my head how I think of as blue MAGA people. Those are the blue MAGA people. They're scared for their lives.
The other thing you have to remember about the people that scream the loudest about January 6th, about how you have to listen to us because God forbid Trump gets in again, these are also the last people alive who will ever demand a single payer healthcare system, that will ever demand that you have a living wage, that will ever demand that we stop this endless war in Ukraine, that we stop this genocide in Gaza, that we do not go to war in Taiwan, that we do not regime change in Venezuela because we want their oil.
Well, we just regime changed Syria, or we regime list Syria. They no longer have a regime. Oh, yeah. The guy who we had as one of the most wanted criminals on the globe is now who we want to be in charge over there. So
it is pretty remarkable when you really get down to it. It is pretty remarkable how much juice they've been able to squeeze out of this political orange. Like, it really is. It's almost remarkable in a way.
It's a little pitiful. I was bored with it after like the day after it happened, quite honestly.
Yeah. Now, do I think things got dicey as Jordan showed when John Farina covered it on Status Coup? Absolutely. But you know what else happened? John Farina got footage, raw footage on the ground of Ray Epps and every other spook in that audience that ushered the shaman and the lectern guy and all those other people into the Capitol. No one breaches the U.S. Capitol on election certification day unless it's an inside job. Not possible. You know why? Because if it was a real threat to democracy and they were armed, then the U.S. military through the National Guard would have been there, and there would have been a lot of dead bodies. That's the bottom line. But that didn't happen.
Or if the people that were doing the insurrection were black. If it were a Black Lives Matter group, then there would be a lot of dead bodies.
You had a handful of people that did make asses of themselves, but the fact of the matter is, we are a broken republic. We have been for a very long time. And there are people on, as MX Diva says, what democracy? There's no such thing.
No.
The sooner you realize that, the sooner you understand why there were 100,000 people that showed up at the Capitol that simply refused to believe that Trump, who was an 80% favorite to win re-election 6 months prior to, and then you literally put the nation on lockdown. And not only does Biden win, but he wins in a sizable margin in the popular vote, but barely skates in the Electoral College due to the flipping of 3 states: Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Wisconsin. And that's what happened this time. Only this time, Trump won in fairly convincing fashion.
So, guys, if you... Oh, are you still...
One last thing.
Okay.
And one last thing. John Farina did our nation a service that day. He covered that event better than anybody in all of media.
And who is John Farina?
John Farina is Jordan Chariton's cameraman at Status Coup. And you know what happened to John Farina and Status Coup News? They stole their footage. They never got proper credit. They were never given the opportunity to grow their channel the way that they should have. They suppressed the shit out of them for doing real journalism, but they're not part of the club. And when you're not part of the club, you're not allowed to get credit for doing this kind of work.
No.
Not
So, guys, if you're new here, welcome. You know, I figure people come and go throughout the stream. You never know. If you like the conversation, please support us. You can go to, you could join here on YouTube. It's very helpful, and we appreciate everybody who donates here. We also have a Patreon, and at patreon.com/generationalchange. And yeah, for as little as $5 a month, you can support our small but mighty channel. What do we have coming up?
So it looks like on Thursday, we've got a couple of options.
I mean, when you say options, are you opening it up to the floor here for a vote? Like, are people going to get a vote on what we do on Thursday, or what? Is that what you're suggesting, that people can have a vote?
Well, a very popular Twitch streamer, Mike from PA, would like to cross channel with us on Thursday.
Interesting.
At 7 p.m. He's a good dude. He's a Dem socialist. He's a former campaign staffer, and he definitely knows a thing or two about our politics.
Interesting. Okay.
Have not been able to confirm Jamie Peck as of yet. Clearly, we're going to have to postpone that, most likely to next Monday or Thursday. We'll see how that works out. Jamal Thomas sends his apologies. He actually is in the process of moving from D.C. to Richmond.
Oh,
so
wow.
He will make it up to us most likely next week. So, yeah, we're going to have some really good guests. But like I said, I think it worked out well tonight because I really wanted to talk about that experience of going to the Republican Club. And so we really appreciate you all being here. And one more time, shout out to Phil Blair for becoming a new YouTube member. Shout out to Chip. Always appreciate you checking in. Again, shout out to Phil. Shout out to Willie Bragg. Guys, make sure you check out the Willie Bragg podcast on YouTube if you haven't already. Thank you so much, Brett Boyle. We're going to talk about potentially adding a call-in option for our show. We'll talk to Colin about that and see what
I'm still reeling from how you think we're like, if we could possibly do a crossover with Twitch streamer. Like, do we even have that capability?
Sure we do. Sajid, appreciate it. Gone Fishing.
Sounds above my pay grade.
Yeah, no, you guys have all been great, and the support tonight has been tremendous. We thank you all. Remember to smash that like button. Remember to share. Remember to subscribe. Click the bell. And also check out our clips. Those also help a lot.
Yes.
All of your help means a lot. We are a true grassroots channel if there ever was one. We are doing what we can to grow. I think we're doing a decent job.
We're doing all right. We're slowly but surely.
Hey, listen, no guests tonight. We still got up to 100 live viewers.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're climbing. Imagine we might get to a point one day where we've got 200 live viewers or 500.
By the time we get to that point, I'll be dead.
You'll be dead already. Yeah,
I'll be dead.
I'll be hanging on right. Okay. Anyway, hopefully it won't
Thank
be
you
that.
guys for joining us tonight. And I say free Palestine.
I say free Palestine too. We'll see you Thursday.